From $225 to $108 in just 6 weeks. Today, SpaceX explains why. Hi, I'm Corey Teacher, your personal English teacher here on YouTube, and I want to help you improve your English while learning about what's actually happening in Korea and around the world. Today will be an advanced level. This is called Push Yourself News, where we take a news story, make it at a higher level, usually around C1, C2 level, sometimes C2, and then go through it one time blank for listening practice as well as shadowing practice, and then we go through it in the nitty-gritty details, step by step, so we can understand the entire article. The PDF for this, the newspaper PDF, will be in the comments down below. So please use that as much as you'd like to follow along and learn these new expressions and vocabulary. Let's dive into this SpaceX story. SpaceX is about to report its first earnings as a public company. The aerospace company went public in June with the largest IPO in history, raising $85.7 billion at $135 per share. The stock initially soared to $225, but it's been bleeding out ever since, sitting around $108 as of late July. So when SpaceX releases its Q2 results after market close today, Wall Street is going to be absolutely scrutinizing every number. Here's the thing. SpaceX isn't a normal company anymore. They got 3 distinct businesses running together now. There's the core space launch operations, that's Starship and all the rocket work. Then there's Starlink, the satellite internet service that's already has 10.3 million subscribers across 164 countries. And then there's the AI infrastructure business, which got folded in after SpaceX integrated Elon Musk's XAI and X back in February. The losses are staggering. The company lost around $4.9 billion in 2025, then another $4.28 billion in the first quarter of 2026. They're burning through billions of dollars, mostly because they're reinvesting everything into Starship development and building AI infrastructure. But here's what investors really want to know. Is the revenue growth actually covering these massive costs, or is this just a long-term bet that might not work? Starlink profitability is going to dominate this conversation. The satellite internet service is basically the only thing making real money right now. It generated around $11.4 billion in revenue last year, but the profit margins matter. Are they making money on each subscriber, or are they just adding customers without profit? Q2 numbers will show exactly where that stands. Then there's the stock drama happening 2 days after the earnings call. August 6th marks the first major unlock date. We're talking about 911.5 million shares potentially hitting the market, roughly $100 billion worth at recent prices. Early investors and employees are sitting on massive gains. They haven't cashed in yet. If they start selling, that could crash the market hard. So Wall Street's terrified of that scenario, and rightly so. Management's got 90 minutes on the call to convince people this company actually has a future. They need to show all 3 businesses will eventually make money. They need to prove Starship is progressing as planned. They need to show Starlink subscriber numbers that justify the current stock price. And they need to explain how much they're spending on an AI infrastructure, how much money, and when they'll see a return. The market's already nervous. This stock has lost over 50% of its value from the post-IPO peak in just 6 weeks. The unlock date is terrible timing. It's hanging over the stock like a threat. Even if SpaceX delivers strong results, if hundreds of millions of shares flood the market, investors could still panic and sell. So today's earnings call is going to stabilize the market, or it's going to confirm that the initial hype was overblown and investors overpaid for the stock. Either way, it's going to be pretty volatile and messy. So look forward to updates about that. All right. If you like this kind of content, please let me know in the comments down below. If you like this level specifically, like and subscribe, of course, but please leave me a comment, because now we're going to go through the same story again, but I'm going to explain each sentence. I'm going to explain as much as I can and give you some business concepts or financial terms. Pay attention to how these different businesses fit together. This is key to understanding what SpaceX is actually doing and why the market is so nervous, and how to read these types of articles and talk about this kind of content with other people. If you're interested in finance, that's where we are right now. So if you want more financial content, let me know. I will help walk through it and we can have conversations about this, okay? So let's go through the nitty-gritty details. Here we go. SpaceX is about to report its first earnings as a public company. This means SpaceX will give its financial results very soon. This is important because it's the first time since they became public, since they opened their stocks, okay? The aerospace company, hold on one second. The aerospace company went public in June with the largest IPO in history, raising $85.7 billion at $135 per share. Went public means the company sold stock to the public for the first time, where before the company had all of the stocks privately. IPO stands for initial public offering. This is when the first time that they give access to their stocks to the public. All right. The stock initially soared to $225, but it's been bleeding out ever since, sitting around $108 as of late July. To soar means to jump up quickly. Birds soar through the sky. So when something soars, it goes straight up into the sky. But bleeding out is an idiom meaning losing value gradually, like blood slowly leaving a wound will eventually kill you, right? So by bleeding out, it's making you weaker and potentially going to kill you. Ever since means from that time until now, like 지금까지, right? From that time until now. So when SpaceX releases its quarter two results after market close today, Wall Street is going to be absolutely scrutinizing every number. Quarter two, of course, means April through June. This is the second quarter, or 1/4 of the year. This is 2/4 of the year. And after market close means after the stock market stops trading at 4 p.m. This means investors will study every financial detail very carefully, scrutinizing, examine. They will study, scrutinize, same. Here's the thing. This is a casual way to say, here is what is important. So if you want to say, oh, here's the thing. I don't drink alcohol. It means, here's what's important. This is the important thing. I don't drink alcohol. In this case, here's the thing. SpaceX isn't a normal company. The important thing is, SpaceX is not a normal company. This is the same meaning. They're not the same a normal company anymore. That means they're not typical. They're not usual. They've got 3 distinct businesses running together now. They have 3 separate money-making operations, all different operation types, but under the same company, like Meta or Google or even Apple. There's the core space launch operations. That's Starship and all rocket works. This is the main business of the rocket launching stuff. So anything to do with launching rockets is SpaceX. Then there's Starlink, the satellite internet service that already has 10.3 million subscribers across 164 countries. Starlink sells internet service from satellites. Subscribers means customers paying for the service, of course. Then there's the AI infrastructure business, which got folded in after SpaceX integrated Elon Musk's XAI and X. Folded in, merged in February. Folded in is an idiom meaning combined or added to. They bought another company and merged it together. The losses are staggering. The amount of money that they're losing is shocking and huge. Staggering means like something hits you and you struggle to stand up. So in this case, the amount of money that is lost is like someone pushed you and you almost fell down. It's huge. The company lost $4.9 billion in 2025, then another $4.28 billion in the first quarter of 2026. They spent more money than they earned. This happened 2 years in a row. And this year, it's even faster. They're burning through billions of dollars, mostly because they're reinvesting everything into Starship development and building AI infrastructure. Burning through is an idiom meaning spending money or spending something very quickly. You're burning through my patience can mean you're really using my patience. You're burning through your salary means you're really using your salary too quickly. Reinvesting, of course, means putting profits back into the business instead of keeping the money. But here's what investors really want to know. This is what investors most care about. This is the big question. Is the revenue growth actually covering these massive costs? Or is this a long-term bet that might not work? Revenue means money coming in. They want to know if the money coming in is enough to pay the huge expenses or the huge cost of the like AI infrastructure and Starship investments. Or is this a risky gamble hoping it'll make money in the future? That's what they're curious about. Starlink profitability is going to dominate the conversation. Profitability means making money. This topic will be the most important discussion. The satellite internet service is basically the only thing making real money right now. It's the only part of the business that's actually profitable. The other parts are not doing much profit. It generated $11.4 billion in revenue last year. Revenue is total money coming in before expenses. This is not profit, it's total income, like the gross income versus net. But the profit margins matter. The profit margin is how much money is left after paying costs. This is crucial. This is critical. This is important. Are they making money on each subscriber, or are they just adding customers without profit? Do they earn real money from each customer, or are they just growing bigger without making money? Quarter two numbers will show exactly where that stands. These quarterly results will show the truth about profitability. Then there's the stock drama happening 2 days after the earnings call. Drama here means exciting or concerning or controversial or have some tension, some worry about something. August 6th marks the first major unlock date. Marks means identifies. This is the beginning of something. So this marks the beginning of my new diet. This marks the beginning of my new job. In this case, it marks the first major unlock date. An unlock date is when company insiders are legally allowed to sell their stocks for the first time. We're talking about 911.5 million shares potentially hitting the market, roughly $100 billion worth at recent prices. Hitting the market is an idiom meaning becoming available to sell. You can say this about anything. The new iPhone just hit the market last week. The Balenciaga has just hit the market with a new series or a new a new collection. My goodness, I'm thinking about financial terms, not fashion. Yeah. So hitting the market is an idiom meaning becoming available to sell. This is a huge amount of stock. Early investors and employees are sitting on massive gains they haven't cashed in yet. Sitting on is an idiom meaning holding something without using it. I'm sitting on a big amount of cash. I'm sitting on that information. I'm not going to use it, but I will remember it. Cashed in means converted to real money or to change it to something useful. So if I cash in on that information, it means I'm using it to gain something. If I cash in on my investments in the stock market, that means I take all the money out, right? Right. And if they start selling, that could crash the stock hard. Crash meaning the price falls suddenly and sharply. Think of a car crash. It had forward momentum, then suddenly it stopped. Bam! And there's just damage. That's it. That's crashing the stock market. Wall Street's terrified of that scenario. This scenario means situation or possibility. If this happens, this is a negative scenario, a negative situation, a negative possibility. These are all synonyms. Management got 90 minutes on the call to convince people this company actually has a future. The call is the earnings conference where they answer questions. They need to persuade investors of the company will survive and succeed. So the call that's what it means. It's the earnings conference. The earnings conference is necessary to convince people not to sell and hopefully to invest, right? They need to show how all three businesses will eventually make money. Eventually, of course, means in the future. They need to prove Starship is progressing as planned. Progressing as planned means moving forward as they intended, on schedule. This is the same meaning. They need to show Starlink subscriber numbers that justify the current stock price. In this case, justify means explain or prove it is reasonable, prove the reason. And they need to explain how much they're spending on AI infrastructure, how much money, and when they'll actually see a return. A return meaning profit or some gain for the investment. Is this a short-term gain or will this be a long haul, a very long-term one? The market's already nervous. The market is worried or anxious. This stock has lost 50% of its value from the post-IPO peak in just 6 weeks. The post-IPO peak means the highest price right after the company went public. They lost half their value in 6 weeks, so the people are nervous. The unlock date is terrible timing, terrible meaning very bad. Timing, of course, meaning something that happens at a certain time. So the unlock date is not at a very useful time. If it was later or earlier, then it could be useful, but this is a very tenuous, a very dangerous time. It's hanging over the stock like a threat. Hanging over means it's an idiom meaning waiting to cause some problems. Like, I feel like it's hanging over my head means that if I do something, it's going to hurt me, like something's going to fall. It could strike at any time. Even if SpaceX delivers strong results, if hundreds of millions of shares flood the market, investors could still panic and sell. Flood means to overwhelm or fill up suddenly. It's like the water coming in and filling up a town. Panic means extreme fear causing irrational action. And then they will maybe irrationally sell all of their stocks. So today's earnings call is either going to stabilize the market or it's going to confirm that the initial hype was overblown and investors overpaid for the stock. Stabilize means calm down or make steady, while overblown means exaggerated or bigger than reality or bigger than I thought. Overpaid, of course, means paid too much. Either way, it's going to be volatile and messy. Either way means regardless of the outcome, which outcome happens, it means both paths are going to be volatile and messy. Volatile meaning unstable and unpredictable, and messy meaning meaning complicated and chaotic. All right. Now that you've went through this and you look through the PDF and see the vocabulary and expressions, if you go back and listen to the original text again, see how much you understand. And then let me know in the comments if you like this kind of content. I'm very curious about that. Also, in the future, if you would like, I can include me reading through the vocabulary and the expressions in isolation. I'm not sure if you'd like that or not, so please let me know. I know pronunciation can be a big part of it, but it is also maybe not interesting or it could be time consuming for you guys. So please let me know. And if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, of course. I want to help you as your personal English teacher here on YouTube to improve as much as you can. So let me know in the comments Let me know through your likes. Share if you want. Hype it. That would be great. Hype is apparently very useful in making the algorithm know we're worth watching. So thank you again, and feel free to go back. There's several more of these advanced videos you can find on our channel. There's also a little bit lower level called digestible news. This one is at an intermediate level, around B1, a little bit B2. And then we have a beginner level as well. You can share that with people that want to start their English language journey and want to have content that is catered to them. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great week. I really hope you can stay informed in this world that's seeming to have more and more crazy news stories these days. But above all, I hope you can continue to stay curious. Thank you and bye for now.